Yes.
Welcome to Worldwide Wisdom, and today we're taking on why God created us. Imagine you could actually know the answer to that question. If you knew why you are on this world, we've spent many discussions on this channel learning about the fact that we're not displaced, but we're dispatched. We're on a mission. But wouldn't it be lovely to know that why we have this, like what our mission is? I mean, imagine you airdrop a soldier in Gaza or something, and you're like, not telling you what you're there to do. Figure it out all by yourself. I mean, seriously? Am I here to rescue a hostage? Am I here to take out the enemy? Am I here to build a house? Am I here to, what am I here to do? So that's effectively what happens to us Jews. I mean, not really, I'll tell you what. We're dropped into this world and we're placed in this foreign territory where we have a radio silence from headquarters. That nobody, it's a one-way conversation. We can talk to God, but we don't hear God talking to us, at least not clearly. And then we're like, when at some point in our lives we get clarity, hopefully sooner than later, that we're actually on a mission and that there is a God and life is not random and chaotic. Okay, so what's our mission? So now, this is what we're learning in our discourse. We're learning this Hanukkah discourse, Mitzvasa, Mishetishka, HaChama. We're learning in this discourse. It's a whole series here on youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. You check out the playlist to get the whole sequence. It's about the lighting of the Hanukkah candles. Now, it's not really about the Hanukkah candles. This is just a metaphor. The Hanukkah candles is a mitzvah, which we Jews do every December time or so, just here in January a little bit, where we light up the night. We're effectively lighting up the night. But the mitzvah of Hanukkah is really a metaphor to our lives. Because just like the Hanukkah story happened 2,200 years ago where the Jewish people were fighting an existential war. Remember, the Greeks were not trying to kill the Jews. They were trying to wipe out Judaism. Big difference. They were not trying to kill the Jews. It was a war against Judaism. They wanted to assimilate us into their culture as opposed to killing us. Not to kill our bodies. They were trying to kill our souls. And therefore, how do you fight such a war? When somebody's trying to kill your body, okay, at least you know like what the target is. But when the target is your soul, I mean, how do you even fight that? That's a far more subtle, sensitive, supremely sensitive battlefield. So to that, the answer is we light the Hanukkah lights. That's how we fight the battle. We light the Hanukkah lights. What is the Hanukkah lights? So we're analyzing the directive in the oral Torah about how we light the Hanukkah lights. It says the first thing you have to do is you light the Hanukkah lights when it's dark. Like different to most other mitzvahs which are happening in the daytime, like tefillin. And like Shabbos candles, which you light before Shabbos, you're not allowed to light Shabbos candles after sunset. If you missed sunset, it's too late. The train has left the station. You can't board the plane after it's left the gate. Shabbos candles have to be lit before sunset, 18 minutes before sunset, preferably. In our Chabad Palm Beach Gardens calendar, we have a time every single Friday for the latest time to light Shabbos candles and the earliest time to light Shabbos candles, right? So you know exactly what your window is. Now, and so we've discussed the significance of lighting up the night because the purpose of our battle is to actually, it's a battle of offense. The best defense is a strong offense, right? So what we're doing is we're taking on the forces of negativity. We're taking on a world which is dysfunctional, a world which is dark, symbolized by the nighttime. Right, so the nighttime represents dysfunction, represents anti-Semitism, represents illness and financial insecurity. It represents Jewish persecution and God hiding himself from us, because when God is present and it's miracles, it's like daylight. But when God is hiding from us and life just doesn't make sense, and you ask, where is God? That's nighttime. And what do? We light up the night. How do we light up the night? So we explained previously in this discourse, in a previous class, so we explained that the way that we light up the night is by standing strong amidst the challenges with unshakable faith to observe Torah and mitzvahs despite all odds. I mean, let's face it, it's easy to have faith when life is going well. It's easy to have faith when the bills are paid, everybody's healthy, and everybody's get along with everybody else. That's no big deal. The big deal is to be able to have faith when your life's on fire and your world is threatening to crash down upon you and you can still have faith. Now we're talking, right? This is what the final test of Abraham was, right? The test when Abraham was asked to raise his son up upon the altar, son Isaac. And God says to him, the angel actually says to him, when he sees that he's actually going through with it, he's about to cut his throat open because he thought that this is, He thought that the instruction was to actually slaughter his son. It actually wasn't the instruction. It was then that the angel says, now I know that you're truly God-fearing. Now I know you're truly God-fearing. How do I know you're truly God-fearing? Because everything else you did, every other test that you did, it could have been interpreted as your nature. That you're just a people pleaser. Maybe you're codependent. And you just like to please other people. So you when God asks you to do something, you comply because you're just a compliant kind of guy, and you're a people pleaser, and you like to make God happy, and you don't like to say no. But when there's people like this, they just don't know how to say no, right? But when you are asked to do something that is so contrary to your nature that it would have been unthinkable for you to say yes, like slaughtering your son upon the altar. Now I know, says God, that you're truly God-fearing, right? That you actually are devoted to me, and that's what it means that we light the Hanukkah lights at the nighttime. To be able to have faith even in the darkest of times. Remember, faith is the ability to take the first step even when you don't see the full staircase, right? Even when you don't understand what's going on and nothing makes sense. And, the atheists are mocking you like, yeah, right, this is your God. Is this how your God treats you? I remember one of our members, Frank Silby, of blessed memory. Frank Silby was a very special man. Some of you might remember him. He fought for Israel. He fought for the Jewish people. His father's dying words to him were, make sure that it doesn't happen again. Those were his father's dying words. And he was a lobbyist, and he fought with Washington and everything else. So he tells the story of how there was an Aktion. Aktion is a German word for, they would assemble the Jews in the ghetto, and they would humiliate them and kill some of them. So there was an Aktion, and they called together the Jews in the ghetto, and they were like mocking them. And they were supposed to be all silent. And one of them was moving his lips. So the Nazi goes over to this Jew and he says, what are you saying? He says, I'm praying. What are you praying for? So the Jew says, I'm thanking God. And the Nazi laughs in a raucous laughter. And he says, you're thanking God. Look at you and look at me. We, the Nazis, we have total domination over you. You're nothing. What are you thanking God for? So the Jew says, and this is Frank Silvy's words to me, he says, I'm thanking God for not making us like you. How's that for attaining dignity amidst the darkest of storms? So that's what it means to light up the Hanukkah lights in the nighttime. Now, where we're going today is to put it all, to let everything fall into place, where we're going to interpret the directive of Hanukkah in the Mishnah as to the ending time. We learned about the starting time of the Hanukkah lights, but what about the ending time of the Hanukkah lights? When do they end, right? And how that's going to give us perspective on the bigger picture here, which is way beyond the directive of Hanukkah lights. I mean, yeah, we learn how to light Hanukkah lights, but far more important than the directive of the Hanukkah lights is the bigger picture, the bigger lesson that we're learning from this teaching, which is what it teaches us about life. So what we're going to learn, and we might not be able to do it inside the text, but at least we can do it orally, is that, and we're on page 221 in case you have the book here in front of you. What we're going to learn is that the ending time of the Hanukkah lights, until when can you light the Hanukkah lights? Until the feet of the scavengers are no longer in the marketplace. Right? That's a very unusual expression in the oral Torah. Until the feet of the scavengers are no longer in the marketplace. Like, what exactly does that mean when it says that in the Talmud, written 2,000 years ago? What are we talking about? So the Rebbe here, and this is a discourse from our Rebbe delivered in 1977 in Hanukkah time, he explains that there's two ways to read. It says, there's two ways to read this word marketplace until the feet are no longer in the marketplace. Shuk is a market. If you've been to Shuk HaKarmi in Tel Aviv or Shuk Ben Yehuda, it's a Shuk. A Shuk is a marketplace, right? And in Israel, they make these real marketplaces. I don't think you see them in America. These marketplaces.
They have green markets.
That's not a real market. You have spices towering, towering, whatever they call things of spices, and you have fruits and vegetables hanging everywhere, and there's people all over the place, and there's and it smells and it sounds and it sights. I mean, that's a marketplace, right? So the meaning of the word marketplace in Hebrew has not only two different meanings, but two opposing meanings. One meaning of the word shuk means desire, as in, and it's going to be in the text, we'll get to it eventually. Desire, which means that God desired to create this world right? And the legs, when we speak about the legs of the people on the market, it's talking about the three legs. What are the three legs of the Jewish calendar? The three major Jewish holidays are called the Shalosh Regalim. Shalosh Regalim, which is the three legs, the three pilgrimage festivals. What does pilgrimage mean? A pilgrimage means a time when you travel on foot to Jerusalem for Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, right? So the three legs represent the three major Jewish holidays, and the shuk, the market, represents the desire for which God created the world. So there's a positive connotation to the marketplace. In other words, you're supposed to light the Hanukkah lights until the darkness of night turns into some form of divine pleasure. Then a second interpretation, which is different, is that the word marketplace is what is a marketplace? A marketplace is a public domain, as opposed to your home, which is a private domain. The marketplace is like, it's got a totally different legal status. You know, in terms of carrying on Shabbos, for example, you're not allowed to carry on Shabbos in a public domain. You're allowed to carry an item like a watch in your backyard on Shabbos in your house because it's a private domain, but you can't carry in a public domain. What's a public domain? A place where the public is allowed to walk, and that is the marketplace, right? So the marketplace, on the other interpretation of it, is not pleasure, divine pleasure, but rather a place of public domain, a place of multiplicity, which is the opposite of monotheism. What's monotheism? Monotheism is the faith, not only that there is one God, obviously there's only one God. You got to be out of your mind to believe that a piece of wood is a God. Or you got to be out of your mind to believe that a piece of metal with the Mercedes-Benz logo on it is a God. I mean, you're just shallow, superficial, pathetic, right? But to think that anything has power over you other than the creator of the universe is shallow. The definition of monotheism is not that there's only one God. It means that there's only one power in existence. Is that what it means is that no corporation, no army, no government, no legal entity, no homeowners association has any power over me to ruin my life. Only God is in charge of me, right? So to live as a Jew, as a monotheist, means that you live without stress. Because to be a Jew means not to have an anxiety, not to have any anxiety, because you're filled with faith, with the awareness that everything comes from Hashem. And that's my dad. So my dad is in control of every single detail of my life. So instead of me worrying ultimately about a hostage deal in Gaza, instead of me worrying about a war with Syria, with Turkey, with Lebanon, with Yemeni Houthis, with the new president of the United States that I like, that I don't like, you don't get stressed out by this stuff. Of course, it's important, but you know that ultimately these are all, what do they call them, those dolls? Marionette dolls? Yeah, the marionette puppets. Yeah. So ultimately, there's the puppet master who's behind it all. So yeah, you want to be served a good puppet, because otherwise it's going to be a nasty scene, right? It's going to test you. You want to get a good puppet, but you're not asking for trouble. But ultimately, you're never stressed out because you know that Hashem is always in control. So this is the mindset of a Jew, of a monotheist. You don't have to be a Jew, by the way, to have this mindset. In fact, even non-Jews are supposed to have this mindset, which is that, just like Mark is saying, isn't the new ceasefire agreement show that President Trump, that many worshipped? I think what you're trying to say is that it would seem that okay, let's make some assumptions here. If President Trump is behind forcing the ceasefire deal, which seems pretty obvious, then I think he claimed credit for it, right? Then it would look like all those who said that President Trump is going to be God's gift to Israel, maybe not so much, right? And maybe you might have put your trust in a human being, which is not what we Jews do. We don't trust in a human being. Do you have a preference on one candidate over another? Very nice, no problem. But don't put your faith in a human being. That's idolatrous. That would mean you only put your faith in God, which is that's what it means that the marketplace is a public domain. Public domain represents a place where there's multiple gods, where there's multiple powers at play. And that's a place of chaos, of anxiety, of stress, of fear, right? That's the opposite of the monotheistic mindset of a Jew, right? So yeah, modern day idolatry, in the olden days, the Egyptians might have worshipped idols that were, maybe they worshipped Pharaoh, right? And we look at that, we're like, they're so pathetic, they worship Pharaoh. Guess what? How many Americans worship the President of the United States of America, right? Guess what? I mean, it's modern day idolatry. I can actually understand how the Egyptians worshipped Pharaoh. They thought he was a god, right? Because today you see that all the time. There are people that see the president of the United States as infallible. Those that worship idols in America, that trust the president of the United States, it doesn't matter which president. They will explain away any possible imperfection of the president as infallible, and that's not a Jewish approach. Yes.
If you said that ultimately God is in control, yet I thought I heard and read that God created us with freedom of choice.
Yes, nice.
So
yes.
How can we have freedom of choice if God is ultimately in control?
Because the freedom of choice that we have, Chuck, is whether we want to choose to believe the perception of our mind and heart, which is monotheism, or to fall for the superficial perception of our eyes, which is to believe that there are many forces that control our lives. We have a choice as to which lane you want to take, which dimension you're in. Are you living in a world where you react to all sorts of external stimuli with fear, or are you proactive, where you come in with faith, having premeditated at the beginning of the day during the morning prayer, where you've meditated your way into the new day to allow yourself to absorb any supposed fear into your faith?
So is my control limited to whether I'm going to be faithful or not?
Well, I think it's a lot.
And if I am faithful,
Of course.
Then God is in control of
Well, it manifests
else.
in many ways. It manifests whether you're fearful or not. I mean, that's already a very big one. That's a big one. Do you have anxiety? You don't have anxiety. I mean, that's like the $1 billion therapy industry, right? Right there, right? So that's free choice, number one. Number two, you have a free choice as to what you're going to do today. Are you going to solicit the graces of God? Are you going to solicit the graces of your idol, which might be some political entity in Washington? It might be some political entity somewhere else. It might be some economic entity like your boss or your client. You know, it depends. So if your client asks you to come meet him on Yom Kippur, what are you going to say? Are you going to say no? Or are you going to say yes? Do you believe in your client having power over you because this is your major artery of revenue or not? Right? So that's a big free choice. Now, how could it be what the discourse here is explaining is that the lighting of the Hanukkah lights is until the marketplace is cleared from the feet of the scavengers, right? So there's two interpretations until the marketplace is sort of like cleaned, right? So the question is, what does marketplace mean? Marketplace could mean a place of divine pleasure, or marketplace can mean a place of polytheism, a place of multiplicity, a place where God is not welcome, right? How could it be that both interpretations are about the same word marketplace? So the Rebbe explains that they're interdependent. When we engage in a world which is complex and confusing, when we engage in a world where there seem to be many gods, and there we make the free choice, we exercise our free choice to do the right thing, to ignite the night, to light up the night with the Hanukkah lights, to do a mitzvah amidst the confusion and the chaos, amidst the darkness. What we're doing is that we're moving from the second interpretation to the first interpretation. We're turning the marketplace from a place of multiplicity into a place of divine pleasure. We're turning this world into a place where God is welcome. In other words, our purpose in this world is in order to exercise our free choice, in order to make this world a place where God feels welcome. Tikkun olam. This is the true meaning of tikkun olam. Tikkun olam does not mean helping old ladies cross the street. That's not what it means. Tikkun olam does not mean that you're marching with Black Lives Matter. That's not what it means. That is a bastardization of tikkun olam. Tikkun olam means that you're taking olam. What does olam mean? The word olam, world. The word olam is the word he'elem, which means hidden. Hidden, concealment. It's a mask. Tikkun olam means removing the mask. Of what? Removing the mask. We're living in a world where God is hidden, and our job is to reveal God in this world. How do you do that? When you take the money that you earn, that you work so hard to earn, and you give 10% to charity, and you make sure you're not charging interest to a fellow Jew as commanded by the Torah, and that you make sure to use your money for the purposes of a mitzvah, that you build a house where you're going to study Torah and you can have a mezuzah, and you buy your house walking distance to the shul, and you use your money to build a beautiful shul and a beautiful Jewish life and a beautiful family. Now what you've done is that you transform the night into light. You've transformed the mask into openness. You've said, God, I know you're here. I am not confused anymore. And that can only happen through our freedom of choice. This can only happen through our freedom of choice. Because if we were forced to do this, there'd be no purpose. And that's why I'm going to go back to Manis Friedman. If you watch the video of Manis Friedman, who taught about Adam and Eve here a few days ago, and it's on YouTube as well. This video, you got to watch it if you haven't seen it yet. YouTube.com/Jewish Gardens. If you have that, then I want to tell you, what did Manis Friedman tell us? He said like this. Yes, we are the light, Wendy. We are the light. If you choose to be the light, you have the choice. You could live an entire life of unconsciousness. You can live an entire life and never once have exercised your purpose in this world. Maybe you didn't know about it. Maybe you didn't know that your purpose was to light up this world. And by the way, I got an email from Soweto yesterday. You know what Soweto is? It was amazing. A guy by the name of Norman in Soweto. Soweto is like one of the biggest slums in South Africa. So all the black people live. Many of the black people live. It's a place where during apartheid, it was a place where I guess black people were supposed to live there. We probably weren't allowed to live in the city of Johannesburg. I remember very well the referendum of 1990, when the big vote was whether should the blacks be allowed to vote or not in South Africa. And the Jewish community was feverishly supporting the yes vote. Yes, allow the blacks to have equal rights, right? I remember that very, very well. And the blacks, but many of the black people still live in Soweto, and it was so beautiful to see a black person from Soweto writing me an email and engaging with me, because many of them were underprivileged and undereducated, and they probably didn't even have internet or something. But now it's able to engage. And he's writing to me about something, one of my videos here on YouTube. And I said to him, Norman, you should continue to be a light in Soweto. Light it up. He was very pro-Israel, and in a country where the leadership is very corrupt and anti-Israel, he was very strong position that he wrote to me in his email in support of Israel. I said, be a voice of truth, and remember, the light extinguishes the darkness. So you don't have to be Jewish to be a light. Every single one of us does the tikkun olam, which is to remove the mask, divine presence from this world. And every time you do the right thing, for a Jew, there's 613 mitzvahs, so 620. And for a non-Jew, there's seven universal Noahide laws. And when you live with a consciousness of God, it's much easier for a Gentile to bring the light into this world than it is for a Jew. A Jew has much more responsibilities. So what the Rebbe is saying is that it can only happen through freedom of choice when we exercise that freedom of choice. And this is why when Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, right? They're put into the Garden of Eden, and they're told that they should not eat from the fruit of the forbidden fruit. They do, they will experience great suffering. So Eve understands. She's like, look, she tells Adam, she's like, we have nothing to do in this world. We were told that we were put into this world for tikkun olam, to fix the world, but there's nothing to fix. So therefore, Manas explained this based on Chassidus. He explained that, and I believe this is where it comes from. The idea comes from right here. That he explained that Eve was understood that Adam and Eve needed to make the choice to descend into a world that was dysfunctional, because a world where there was mortality and suffering and trouble in relationships and trouble making a living. Why? Because that's the world that we can fix. That's the world that's broken. But they could not enter that world by divine command. They needed to enter that world on their own free choice. And that's why God didn't say to them, if you eat the fruit of the tree, then you will die. God said to them, when you eat the fruit of the tree, then you will die. And then Eve understood that that's what God wanted them to do, to exercise that freedom of choice. And that's what this discourse is telling us, is that God puts us in a situation where we're in a world that is confusing, a world where we're in the marketplace, and there seems to be many vendors and many people and many entities and many powers in control over us, right? There's the United Nations, and then the ICC, and the United States, and there's the Russia, and then the G5, whatever they call the G9, G7, whatever they're called. And then there's other entities, and then there's politics in Israel, and there's Syria, and there's ISIS, and there's Turkey. And we feel like, oh my God, we're in a marketplace, and it's just so much noise all around us. But we have to rise higher with that freedom of choice, to make the choice, to realize and say, no, I'm not intimidated. I believe in one God. I believe that there's going to be God is controlling all of these marionette puppets. And when we do that, that's when we're able to turn this world into a place of pleasure, the marketplace into a place of divine pleasure, where through our accumulated actions, we are able to ignite the night to turn the marketplace into a home for God. And that's our purpose upon this world. Now, it's interesting when God created Adam and Eve, and I'm glad you watched it there, Nicole, in West Virginia. Cool. When God created man, it says like this, some very interesting in the Torah. It says, "Let us make man." Elo, you got to watch the video of Adam and Eve. It's on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. I can't answer you right now. I mean, the purpose was for them to go into the Garden of Eden. That was the goal. You got to watch the interview. It's called, I don't know what it's called on our YouTube channel, but it's there. So what I was saying, so when God created man, it's very interesting. It says like this, "Let us make man in our image." That's what it says in the Torah, in the first portion of the Torah. Let us make man in our image. Now, isn't that strange? How are we supposed to interpret this? The Torah, written by one God, says, "Let us," na'aseh, which is plural form. Let us make man, and like right away, Rashi says, "What? Who's us? I thought there was only one God." Right? Is this not some proof that there's many gods? So Rashi writes, because God wanted us to have freedom of choice. So he gave us an opportunity, gave us like a little way out in case you wanted to be able to say that there's many gods. And this would allow us. So really God was consulting with his court, with his angels. But you could interpret it to mean that God was talking about many gods. And therefore, you'd have freedom of choice to say, I believe in one God or I believe in many gods. And the whole purpose of it all is in order to be able to allow man to fulfill his purpose in this world, which is to transform the confusion and chaos of the marketplace into a place which is structured and organized, into a place where there's only divine pleasure. And that is our purpose upon this earth. What we didn't do today, we didn't get a chance to read this inside, but at least we did it orally. Yeah, question.
Where is the phrase "light unto the nations"?
That comes from, is it Isaiah? Prophecy of Isaiah, or lagoyim netaticha. I made you into a light unto the nations.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
If Adam didn't eat the fruit, what would the world be like?
So I asked that question to Manis, and he said he had to eat the fruit.
I'm sorry?
Manis said that the way he explained it was that God, they had to eat the fruit. There would be no purpose. There would be no purpose. We'd be living in a museum.
So
Yeah.
again, I hate to be kind of. So then he had no control. God had control. He didn't. Adam and Eve didn't have control. God had control.
Of course, God always has control
of our choices.
Yeah. So that's the way things get a little interesting. Well, you have free choice, but you're gonna have to choose that one. Look, I'll tell you what. There were worlds. It's interesting. There were worlds that were created. The Medrash, we've learned this in the Medrash before. There were worlds that were created and then deleted. So there was this Control-Alt-Delete mechanism where God created a world and then he deleted them, created them and deleted them. And that's where the secret of the sparks comes into. There's this concept we touch on sometimes about certain sparks that are trapped in this world and they come from previous worlds that were destroyed. Could it be that they were previous Adam and Eve's in a previous world and that they said, so we're not going to eat the fruit? And God said, okay, restart, reboot, let's do it again. It could be, I imagine maybe that's what it's talking about.
I know how you like to quote song lyrics from popular songs. So I don't know if you know who Katy Perry is.
I've heard of this person.
She's a well-known singer. So she has a song that she must have written after reading this book.
Oh,
listen to these lyrics.
Lyrics from a popular American singer called Firework.
Katy Perry called Firework. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Do you ever feel so paper thin like a house of cards, one blow from caving in? Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under screams, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you because there's a spark in you? You just got to ignite the light and let it shine. Just own the night like the 4th of July because, baby, you're a firework. You don't have to feel like wasted space. Your original cannot be replaced. If you only knew that the future holds after a hurricane comes a rainbow. may be a reason why all the doors are closed, so you could open one that leads you to the perfect road. Like a lightning bolt, your heart will glow, and when it's time, you'll know. You just got to ignite the light and let it shine. Just own the night like the 4th of July.
That was beautiful. I want to say this, that the people online cannot hear you,
Wow.
which is why we should invest in a microphone here on this table. But also, no, I'm serious, we should. No, we should get one, whatever. Bottom line is that I'm sorry if you couldn't hear it, guys, but what he was quoting was a lyric of a modern day song, which seems to comply with some of the values that we're speaking about today. I'm going to sign off over here. Oh, Wendy did hear you, apparently, so she might have a better mic. But that was, thanks for sharing that. It's always nice to, to counter. I saw you send it. It's nice to counter reference between different cultures to see where things come from. And it's interesting,
How in line they are. Here's someone who
Wendy says it was beautiful.
I don't read the red.
I'm going to sign off over here, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
It's nice.